Now I have a very interesting book here. It's the Field Guide to Drawing and Sketching Animals by Tim Pond. This book was published by Search Press in 2019. It has 192 pages. Now it's got a flexible cover here. We've got some rounded edges. And we open up, we see a picture of Tim, some of his sketches here. And the next thing we see is a mention of the Zoological Society of London and its work with conservation and education. We have lovely illustration. And I have to mention that there is no step-by-step instructions for painting and colouring your illustrations. This is purely a guide to drawing and sketching. So we have a foreword by Dr. Ben Garrett, and then we have the contents. So there's a lot of animals in here. So we have introduction, the blank page, the sea and life, welcome to the animal kingdom, arthropods, fish, amphibians and reptiles, mammals, birds, and then the index. Now we have an introduction by Tim. Now, I do not normally quote anything from the books, but there's something here that Tim has said that I feel is really important. When someone loves something, they tend to create a more interesting drawing of the subject. That is just so true. And Tim's love of animals, it really shines through in this book. He really does understand them. Now we move on here to the blank page with looking and mark making. We have some skill building exercises, which is particularly important for organic shapes and forms. We have perspective, finding space and depth in the flat paper surface. So we have a sea turtle here. We have some study sheets. And we move on to the sea and life, and there's a mention in here of Darwin, Charles Darwin. We've got a map of the origins of life, why changes happen, habitats and adaptations, some common features and structures. We've got arms and legs, the skull, muscles, and welcome to the animal kingdom. What makes an animal? We start off with sponges, and I think they are absolutely lovely. So many detailed, wonderful shapes you get here, and jellyfish, and corals. Oh, I just do love this book so much. And then we move on to the arthropods. Habitat is the coast. Insects, how insects walk, and we have butterflies and moths, iridescence. There is a bit here on capturing iridescence in watercolour, which is really helpful. Spiders and scorpions and fish. Different classes of fish. I am going quite quickly. This is a big book. I just want to give you an idea of the content. And if you love animals, this is a book you're probably going to want to go and buy or at least borrow from a library. This is a book I really love to pick up and just look through. Amphibians and reptiles. So many different animals and so much inspiration. And it's so lovely to understand the skeletons and the muscles and the movement. Well, we've got dinosaurs here as well, and then we move on to mammals. Another lovely illustration. So we have lots of different mammals in here. Pivot points. It's a lovely, nice bound book. It stays flat when you're using it, which is really helpful. Elephants. Cats here. different different, the habitats again. So you learn so much about the animals from this book. We've got here sketching fur. And this I think is really helpful. We've got movement through water. And then we have movement through the air. So those are both really useful for you. And then we move on to birds. How did bird flight evolve? Bird origins, the anatomy of a feather. That looks so fluffy. We have the bird anatomy, wings. This is such a lovely book. I'm probably going to say this again in a minute because I think it is wonderful. Then we have the index. So that is such a great book. You're not going to get through this book all in one go. It really is a book to keep coming back to dipping in, to use it as a reference when you're drawing a particular bird or animal or insect. It's lovely to have all these different animal families in one book, to have a bit of history. And I just love animals, and if you love animals, this is going to be a wonderful book for you. And as I mentioned before, Tim Pond's love of animals shines through. It's just such an interesting and informative and inspiring book.